Welcome everyone. So it's quite interesting. Um, I think the last time we had this conversation, or rather we had a conversation was during Ramadan, right?
Yeah,
Where we had our, what do you even call it?
can't remember.
Subh Shenanigans.
Yeah, yeah.
Great Subh Shenanigans. And so now we're sitting down to just have a conversation again. I think we should do this more often, but yeah,
I'll see if I
life.
can add you to my calendar.
Ah, shit. Okay, anyway, so what's been happening since then is, my name is Othman. I'm Mr. Awesome, and I'm here with Aisha. She's Mrs. Awesome. What's been happening is recently our kids they've grown, mashallah, and so for a long time, Mrs. Awesome has been really obsessed. Can we use obsessed?
I don't know, that doesn't sound healthy.
Okay, interested, intrigued.
Yeah,
Intrigued by the Montessori method, and I
yeah, I
think
like
it's something
that.
that is. I've also, I have a T-shirt, right, that
Yeah,
says
like
Montessori down.
considering I am obsessed, then what are you?
You know me, I'm all about the swag and the paraphernalia. Anyway, so Montessori is amazing. I'm learning from what she's learning as well. That there's a lot about Montessori. Is amazing, but I think what I want us to discuss today is myths. What are the myths that you went into, you had, and then Montessori just sort of busted it? Because I know from what you've been saying, from some of the conversations we've had, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know, right? And just prepping for this, I think I want us to start with the nursery rhyme. So I was like, what, guys? I swear, by the time you listen to this thing, you will never take nursery rhymes lightly again, right? So over to you, Mrs. Awesome. Tell us.
Okay, so we're talking about like basically different ways to teach, right? Because again, Montessori is a philosophy of education, but it's also a philosophy of life. And so we're talking about using, I think we had a conversation with our teacher or facilitator about using stories about a week ago. And then today we're talking about poems and songs. And, I was honestly, as she was going on and on about poems and songs, I was thinking, well, we call them nursery rhymes, right? But it turns out like she was very particular about what she was saying because, again, Montessori doesn't use nursery rhymes, and I'm like, what? Like we're talking about poems, and there were some songs, but particularly certain rhymes are something because I know she did show us something with the itsy bitsy spider, but so she was like, so somebody was asking, I think, the difference between songs and I can't remember how the conversation came up in class anyway, but basically she was like, well, when you think about some of what we call nursery rhymes today are stories of they were like political jingles
Wow.
for the Europeans. Can I say? Yeah.
UK,
Yeah,
the
those
Queen.
in England, like so. For instance, she was like Jack and Jill, is about a king and his wife who, they went to up a hill. Is like they came in power, and then it didn't work out, and so they came
Tumbling down.
tumbling down and all of that. And when you think about the Ringa Ringa Roses, is when a plague hit England and there was this superstitious belief they had about something that would protect them, but the thing wasn't protecting them, it would make them sneeze. So when you say a tissue, like the sneezing thing, and we all fall down, like that's how like people would die as a result of the plague. And she's like, so why would you want your children to know that? And I'm like, okay, now I don't want my children to know that, right?
The
Exactly like that. So yeah.
So what other myth do you have?
Okay. Another thing is we had a conversation about what was it about? I think we're talking about fruits and snacks. And so we're talking about how like for children up until a certain age, usually 6, it's important to use real things, like show them real stuff, right, and everything. And so I was like, okay, but what if I was the one that even asked the question in class, like what if you have like plastic fruits, right, like all these make believe things, because we do have them like all around, like very real looking stuff, but they're
Plastic
plastic.
bananas and all that.
And so it's like, what if you can use them like to show and everything? She was like, well, if you want to show the child, like, why wouldn't you just show them a real one and everything? And when you think about it in the sense that if you give them a fake thing, they're going to treat it in a way because nothing happens to it. But when you give them a real one, for instance, you give them a fake orange and then they throw it on the floor, nothing happens, they pick it up, and then you give them a real orange and then it's like they squeeze it and obviously it gets bust, and then it's messy and all of those things, and then it's like they're not sure how they feel, and then you as the parent now gets upset because it's like, why are they playing with their food? But they have been playing with their food because it was plastic and it was for play, so they don't know what is real and what is fake. I was like, well, and it's like she had just been busting bubble because like, but we do that in our school. And she's like, well, your school is not using Montessori, like that. And so it's been, because yes, we do know that a lot of schools in Nigeria here don't, they just have Montessori in the name, but they're not necessarily a Montessori. But for me, it really did. She was like, yeah, and I'm not saying that. She said, obviously, there's some things that you want to teach the children, but you can't bring it to the class, like animals, for instance. So, but there's a way you have to learn. You would. There's a conversation you have with the children first before you get to that stage. But she feels something like fruit is a conversation that you can have, like you can bring the real fruit
The class.
to the class, and then they can feel it, they can taste it. And honestly, when she was talking about it, it made me think about one time that I was when I introduced the kids to eggs, and
Yeah, we had that fake egg.
it was a whole crate of fake eggs, and it was, like, I think we used it a lot for play, right? And this one time we did the egg peeling activity with boiled egg, and I showed them how to do it, and well, they did their version of it and it was okay, right? It wasn't that we're not looking for perfection here. I've learned to put my perfectionism aside. And then this other time, we did raw eggs where I needed them to beat eggs for me so that we could make pancakes, and we did that. So, but there was a time that I gave raw eggs, and I was thinking that I was giving, I didn't give them with a spoon. Like I just gave the egg and a bowl, and I didn't give it with a spoon. And my daughter like just smashed it with her
Thinking that it
hand.
was.
And but when she said that, I honestly just thought that maybe because we had started to play a lot with the raw eggs, that might be why. Like she throws it on the floor and nothing
And nothing
happened.
happens,
But
yeah.
I was thinking like, okay, maybe she just doesn't know the difference between a boiled egg
And
and
raw egg.
raw egg. But now that I think about it, it might not have been like that,
It might just
right?
be
It might just
thinking
be
that this
that
is just
this
play
was
as
what
well.
you do with eggs. So for me, it was something that hit. Yeah.
Now, so I think, schools these days, I think they put the whole Montessori thing to just if they want to be premium. So I think it's a premium marketing strategy. If you put Montessori in front of your school, then obviously you can charge premium. But what is the major thing about Montessori? What's the if anybody is going to if there's one thing that you want people to take away from this, right? And they want to start researching Montessori, what's the mindset? What's Montessori all about?
Um, for me, if you're asking, and you're not, but assuming you're asking why I decided to, like, why I got interested in Montessori, is that it's, for me, it was really about the values. I didn't even know who Maria Montessori was. I didn't know any of those things, but I was doing this thing where I was doing a lot of work on family values, and values that I wanted to raise the kids by. And as they were approaching the age for education, so I was really thinking of homeschooling. So I was looking into all of those things, and where again my faith would, you know, show somehow. And what I found with the philosophy of Montessori was it really did. It's the closest I found that came with my values as at where I'm at right now. And that's what I like. And that's not to say that Montessori is Islamic or anything like that, but the values, it had more common values than any of the other principles that I have come across. And so if you ask me maybe what is Montessori, I like the fact that it is centered on the child, and it treats the child as an individual worthy of respect, worthy of unconditional love. And these are things that are important to me as regards my children, and it's something that they take into their classrooms, right? Like, so it's that's the way to be, right? So it's not, the values are not different anywhere, the standards are not different anywhere, it's just the way of being. And so for me, that's majorly why, because like one part of the curriculum is grace and courtesy, right? So it's not just forcing the child to say, oh, thank you for, doing this stuff. It's being constantly having it modeled around them, and that way they're able to pick. And then another thing for me is also the concept of the education, right? As someone who has taught even in tertiary institutions, I find that, I don't know, I just felt like there needed to be a better way, right? Like a better way of letting everybody be an individual in and of themselves, and letting there not to be one standard for everybody, because I started to feel like it was just not fair, right? And just, I don't know, maybe being, because of the awareness of human differences and individuality and all of those things, I started to see how, like, you find certain students that thrive in certain areas, and maybe they're not so good in these areas, but it doesn't make them less of a star student. It doesn't make them less of a good student. And so that was another thing that um, came up for me. Another thing is the whole, we live in a world that is so steep, or rather deep, when you think about the what I'm trying to say is that the competition is very steep. Like, everybody is competing, right? And like, people are just constantly, whose child is doing better, whose child weighs more, whose child is fatter, whose child is like, and so
And
again,
you know the funny thing, I don't think, have you ever seen that parents don't ask whose child is happier? Right? Like, what really matters for children is joy, happiness, laughter,
yeah,
but they're competing on things that, and I think it's just about the parents massaging their own egos, right? Where, oh, my child is smarter, it means that I'm a better parent than you. Do you only want your child to be smarter than another person's child just so that it shows that you're a better parent than the other person, right? So I think it still comes back to that whole ego conversation. I think, to me, one of the things that really, what I love most about the Montessori method, I think, is even the foundation where it talks about the absorbent mind. And I think, because I believe a lot in that, what our environment shapes, who we tend to become, our beliefs. And so, just understanding that a child has an absorbent mind where they can absorb what is going on in their facility. I mean, see the other day where we saw Khadija trying to do a handstand, and I'm like, where did she? I've never done a handstand in front of her, but going through pictures, I realized even when she was a baby, I was doing handstand in front of them. Like, I didn't even realize. There was the time I did a crow pose, and crow pose is one of the hardest yoga poses, right? I did crow pose, and Bilal was sitting down, like, and I took a picture. So obviously, if I see modeling that kind of thing, I won't be surprised.
no, you were, because you're asking me, where did she learn it from?
And that's what I'm saying. I
She
was
learned it
surprised.
from me.
I was surprised at
Me that just
first.
lies around on the bed.
I was surprised at first, but I think later on, I just sort of figured that, oh, when I learned about the absorbent mind, I realized that, okay, this is what it is, you know. So yeah, I think that's it. So I mean, you're starting an amazing journey to become certified, and I wish you the best as you go forth. But if people are interested in Montessori, how can they learn more? Or if they want you to teach them, how can they reach out to you? Among your 1 million pages that you have.
I hope to share. I hope to share a lot of what I'm learning, and because for me, what I try to do with Nurture Network is, especially when it comes to the parenting aspects or the relationship aspects, is to put what works. Because the truth is, I have done this thing where I have gotten certified a lot. And sometimes it can be too much when you talk about RIE, positive discipline, um, empowered parenting, conscious parenting,
Intentional parenting.
simplicity parenting. So what I try to do is to take all of these things. Again, my disc style helps me be very analytical and very detail oriented, but I soak all of that in, and I just make it into easy bite-size tips and ways that people can start to use it and see the difference in their life. So yeah, Nurture Network would be a good place to start. But for more personal, like maybe my own personal reflections or my own thoughts on certain things, then you would find me on my personal Instagram.
Awesome. So that's personal Instagram is I am Aisha Ahmed.
Yeah. And then Nurture Network is
Nurture
Nurture
Network.
underscore network.
Nurture_network. All right, fantastic. So it's always nice, bringing you on this show that we do once in every every 3 months. Anyways, but I think it's something that we could be doing more of, and we'll just be touching on topics that might help people, right? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. If you've listened this far, you are the realest MVP. Thank you very much. And like I said, follow her on her pages. I am Aisha Ahmed and Nurture_network. If you aren't following me as well, you can follow me on I am the Othman. That's the only Instagram page that I operate fully. All right, guys, take care, and drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let's see, what are your thoughts. Are you going to think about starting Montessori? Is this something that you might want to inculcate in raising your kids? Thank you, and see you guys again.